Scott Wheeler of The Athletic with us. So the draft is in 10 days, June 27th. The Sabres pick 9th. I think this is the first year, is it not, where teams will not be present?
And I think the only year, because I think, Scott, they're going to swing back to a central draft location. This seemed maybe like a good idea in theory, but it seems like there's been a lot of pushback wishing they hadn't done it.
Yeah, there has. This is, I think, going to be a 1-in-1 decentralized draft. That for those who are unfamiliar, the NHL voted a couple of summers ago now to move towards a decentralized draft. A lot of it came out of Nashville and travel nightmares getting out of the draft in Nashville a couple of years ago, and just how close the NHL draft is in the calendar to free agency and the consequences of having general managers and assistant general managers stuck in airports while they should be preparing for free agency. So part of what I think the next CBA will try to address is that gap, sort of moving the draft and free agency maybe a couple of days further apart to account for that. But I think part of what's going to happen after this year's unique draft, and it'll be in a theater in Los Angeles instead of an arena, it'll be just the top 50 players and their families. The actual staff from all of the NHL organizations that are typically on the draft floor will not be in attendance. And it's mostly going to be players and agents and their families rather than NHL team staff who will have remote setups in order to send their picks in, a lot like we see in the NFL and in the NBA. So they're trying it out. I don't think it's going to be a major success. And frankly, though they haven't said so publicly, I think they've already made the decision that they're going to go back to a centralized draft for next year.
All right. So the Sabres have the 9th pick. In general, Scott, I'll speak for myself and maybe many of our listeners. It's just like maybe about now starting to get acclimated, who's who and what might be best here in terms of strategy. What kind of draft is it? Is it above average, below average for like overall talent, or even just maybe top 10 with the Sabres sitting at 9?
It's a below-average draft. I've been on record throughout this season saying that this draft doesn't really get me excited. Now, in saying that, I think when people talk about the draft that way, it typically takes on a life of its own, and I actually find when people talk over and over, whether it's scouts or media, about a draft being a below-average draft, I actually find that the pendulum typically swings in terms of the groupthink about the draft. The pendulum typically swings too far, and as a result, poor drafts actually become undervalued. People are too eager to get rid of picks in bad drafts and too eager to sort of trade out of bad drafts or trade back in bad drafts. Where the Sabres are picking specifically, there are still going to be future stars either at their pick or in the pick shortly after theirs who go on to be top 6 forwards in the NHL, top 4 defensemen in the NHL. There's going to be Stanley Cup winners from this draft. That's just the way that the draft is. It plays out that way, even in a weaker draft class. And draft, I don't talk about it the way that I talked about 2012, for example, which will go down as one of the worst drafts in NHL history. But we've been spoiled the last couple of years, and this isn't 2024 or 2023, which I would qualify as excellent drafts. So at 9, there will be good players there. It's a very center-heavy draft. Typically, you talk to NHL scouts, 7 or 8 of their top 10 prospects in this draft are listed as centers. Now, some of those centers could end up on the wing in the NHL, but a center-heavy draft, a year after a draft that was stocked sort of full at the top with defensemen. This draft class is much lighter on defensemen at the draft after presumptive number 1 pick Matthew Schaefer, who is the premium prospect in this draft and one of the premium D prospects that we've seen in recent years. But certainly where the Sabres are drafting, there will be 1 or 2 defensemen in that range rather than the typical 3 or 4 defensemen in that range that teams consider, and there will be multiple centers in particular that are available to them there that they will have to mull over.
Do you have thoughts on guys that could be good fits considering what they've already got in the pipeline, or is that a flawed way to approach deciding who to pick?
I think that in an ideal world, the one thing that the Sabres would really like to add and inject into their pool is a sort of ultra-competitive type. a sort of physical, hard to play against. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a throwback, if you will. But you look at their pool right now, they've got a lot up front. They've got a lot of sort of 5'10", 5'11", 6-foot forwards who are sort of skilled finesse players, can make plays, read the game at a high level, some good skaters in that mix. But a lot of players who kind of look the same, whether it's Consta Helenius, Isak Rosean, Noah Ostlund. It's just a collection of forward prospects in particular that kind of have started to feel really similar. I think that's a big reason why they traded Matt Savoy, who also had a little bit of that sort of look to him in terms of an undersized, skilled forward. Ironically, Matt Savoy was actually, I would argue, the most competitive, the hardest working of those players, although Noah Ostlund gets very, very high grades for that as well. But they could use a little bit of jam in their pool, and there are two players in this draft who sort of fit that mold with emphasis. One of them is a center of the Sioux Greyhounds by the name of Brady Martin. Brady is a farm boy off the ice and a farm boy on the ice in terms of just that hard-working, get after it, physical, bowls guys over, hardest hitting player in the draft. Ultra competitive center. I've kind of compared him throughout the course of this season to guys like Mike Richards, who've been sort of really the heart and soul centers of their organization. Sam Bennett, and we're seeing the impact that Sam Bennett is having on the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. I think those are two players that kind of feel a little bit like Brady Martin. Now, Brady is not likely to be there at 9. He was viewed as sort of a mid-first round pick coming into this year, but was a real riser over the course of the season because of his unique sort of DNA and his intensity, his motor. And I now expect that he'll go in the sort of 4 to 7 range directly in front of them. But there is another player who fits that mold who could and will likely be available to them there, and that's Keishon Aitchison. I'm not convinced they'll take Keishon Aitchison, but he would certainly check that box. Keishon is a defenseman rather than a center like Brady Martin, but plays the game with intensity, physical sort of imposition, knocks guys around, really strong, and also scored 30-plus goals as a defenseman in the OHL this year, which is very rare. Has a big point shot, likes to attack both offensively and defensively and sort of take charge of shifts. He comes with some mistakes, plays on instinct, and can make some mistakes out there, but sort of would add something to their pool that they maybe don't have. There are other players in that range that I think would be potential fits for them. They've got a very big blue line that they've built, obviously, in terms of length in Buffalo, and there's another of that variety in Radim Murtka of the Seattle Thunderbirds, 6'5", 6'6" defenseman who can really skate. Would fit in nicely on a blue line that already has Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin and Mattias Samuelsson. And then there are a couple of other really interesting forwards. Roger McQueen of the Brandon Wheat Kings was marred by back injuries over the course of the last 2 seasons, but was viewed as a potential top 5 pick in this draft before the injury troubles. He's now going to go, I think, in that 9, 10, 11 range in this draft and could be a consideration for them. Big center with lots of skill, would also add something to their pool that they're maybe missing in terms of the size element. He's not the ultra competitor that a Brady Martin is, but a 6'5" center who's got legit skill and does not look like the 5'10", 5'11" types that they have in their forward group. So there's a good mix there that could be available to them, and a lot of players with some sort of really legit potential, if you will.
We've already touched on it, Scott. The some similarities in some of their higher end prospects that are already have played in Rochester. How do you feel about their pool overall? It feels like maybe the shine is starting to come off a little bit. Like they were very highly rated for a few years running, and now I'm getting the feel that maybe they're getting a little thin.
Yeah, it started to thin out a little bit. Some of that is just graduating Zach Benson and Yuri Kulich maybe a little bit earlier than people expected that those guys would graduate. Some of it is trading Matt Savoy for Ryan McLeod, which I think some of it has been parlayed into NHL players already. Some of it has been used to go and acquire a legit sort of top 9 NHL player in McLeod. And I still think there's more coming. Isak Rosén is the one who's tricky because he's starting to feel maybe like a bit of a quadruple A guy. And by quadruple A guy, I mean that sort of in between the AHL and the NHL. He's a high-end top six forward at the AHL level who can score on the power play and has speed and can really shoot the puck. But he doesn't likely fit in as a top six NHL player and might not fit in as a bottom six NHL player. So you start to wonder about where Rosén sort of fits into the future of the Sabres as they're also trying to get better and not have to rely so much on young players. Östlund is a player who I know they're very high on and they fully expect is going to be a part of their future moving forward here as a top nine center. He's a natural center. Could become a winger, but it plays with a defensive conscience despite not being the biggest or strongest kid. So there are some pieces there, even on the blue line. Vsevolod Komarov, Nikita Novikov, two legit Russian defensemen who could be depth D for them moving forward here. They took Adam Kleber in the second round a year ago. Maxim Sturbak is a legit college player at Michigan State who are one of the favorites sort of heading into this college hockey season. So there is still some depth coming, but they don't have the true top prospect. They don't have a Tage Thompson or a Rasmus Dahlin or an Owen Power coming.
Scott, in just 2 minutes or less here, as we've kept you a while already, can you believe the Sabres? I mean, this is 14 years without a playoff appearance. That's insane stuff. There probably isn't a short answer that you might have for or explanation for it, but I don't know. It doesn't necessarily feel like things are about to get better to me. We lost Scott. He almost dropped off a couple of times.
Right, then that was it.
Well, that'll have to go unanswered, and that's fine.
That's just how that goes sometimes. Yeah. All right.
Is there a Bulldog, though? Should I ask you? Is there a good explanation for the Sabres? I mean,
commitment.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's that.
That's the word, commitment. For whether it's starting right at the top and just rolling right through. I think that's what it is.